Wait, I think I pushed the button. There we go. Okay, thank you for meeting with me today, and we're going to go over the individual professional development plan.
Yep.
Okay, first we're going to talk about, let's see. All right, first I'd like to address, when we talked last time at the post-observation conference about how I saw everything for standards 2, 3, and 4, and 6 for content knowledge, planning, instructional strategies, classroom management. And then through our conference last time and through discussion with the principal, we pretty much have evidence for all of the standards and all of the criteria.
Good.
So when you're developing this professional development, having everything already done, it's more about personal teacher research. What kinds of things are you interested in continuing to grow in, even though you have all your bases covered?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. When we talked also about some ideas that you can choose from, about your interest in answering patterns from Standard 3D is always a good one. And I think for every teacher all the time, in every class.
I agree.
It's always something.
Because even after you left, I am still catching myself going,
because that's, as good teachers, we always vary our questioning strategies and our answering patterns. Monitoring student learning, we talked a little bit about helping them do some more additional goal setting as they're developmentally ready for it, that would address 5D. Some of the campus initiatives about differentiation. And we're going to talk about your current plan in a minute. And that's because that is part of your current goal. And that addresses 3D or the new BAT process, which would be 4B and C.
Okay.
And then curriculum, your upcoming transition from phonics to word.
Yes.
And so that's another thing we could address that comes at the semester for 4D. Some district initiatives. And so kind of the overarching thing about the implementation of the new benchmark learning program kind of addresses a lot of these different ones as well.
Yes, it does.
With, and I put some standards for 1B, 4A, and 4B.
Okay.
So based on your reflections and what we discussed at the post-observation now, what do you think you would like to add to your current plan?
I definitely want to continue to focus on the implementation of the new benchmark learning reading program that the district has established. I think there's a lot to still grow from there. So I would like to continue that on as far as my research plan for my future.
Okay, and my next question was about looking at these goals. How do they relate to the student needs and building district goals? We did kind of address that because, and it is something we've talked a lot about during observation, during our debriefing every time, because it is a big deal.
Yes, it
and
is.
Even in the day-to-day I was at now, there was a lot of discussion about how the implementation is working. Let me see. And I was going to say also is that part of that addresses, and even though your plan, you didn't have the benchmark learning at that time, but about the learning targets and essentials of effective instruction and the differentiation.
And I think since the implementation of the learning targets last year, because that was our true first year, the kids this year at Fairmeadows are really tuning into that. I think they're realizing that, okay, these teachers aren't going to abandon this kind of talk. And so I think that they have a good grasp on these learning targets and their purpose now. So I kind of am straying a little bit from my previous goal only because I'm noticing a different need in my classroom.
Well, and it still goes with that benchmark learning because it gives you a whole system instead of the little pieces.
Yep.
And even at the end, where y'all had put with the evaluation, talking about academic levels in the core curriculum, using the variety of assessments and strategies to help our students become lifelong learners, and your SMART goals, all of that still, you just have a framework now.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so I don't think it's that different. It's just kind of, another focus.
We're still going to be using learning targets within our new BL program, our new benchmark. Yep. Okay,
let's see. What would be some concerns you might have with the implementation, how it's going, or some of the things so far, or that what might be some concerns?
My concern right now is, are we talking about with my new idea of my benchmark learning reading program, my new goal for that, or are we talking about this one instead?
It all kind of goes together, I think, because all of that's kind of like an overarching goal, and these other pieces that we've been talking about are like action steps within that broader goal.
I think that this is a goal that my PLC and I just talked about before coming in here was how are we going to be marking this on the PPR? I'm not sure if you've heard that conversation or not, but there's a lot of discrepancy right now across the district about how to mark whether or not our kids are reading at grade level. And right now, there's a different message than it was 2 weeks ago, and conferences are coming up in 3 weeks. And so I need a very clear definition of what is meets and what is needs. And so looking at student achievement, I need to make sure that how I'm marking the PPR is going to be the best for my kids, and especially for the end of the year, because they have to be reading on level by the end of the year, which would be level M in 2nd grade. And right now, I've got kids that aren't meeting that goal, and so I need to make sure that yeah.
And I think that there are still some discussions within district. I heard that that is part of the process and why it has changed, and also some of the discussion around what's most useful for parents to hear.
Yes.
And what is going to be a level that's going to be useful.
Yes.
And at this
as a
point,
parent myself in this district,
right.
I've already gone home to try to explain this to my husband. So you're right. Making sure it's parent-friendly terms.
And you're a teacher that understands. And if you have, 2nd graders who are...
And it's a 15-minute conference.
Yeah.
Who I want to minimize my whole conference with can I explain the bench,
right. The rubric we're using for this?
Yes.
And so that's going to be a difficult conversation.
Yes.
And that does also inform how we're going to be looking at these other goals, because how they're measured is still part of how that all goes together.
Absolutely.
In fact, that's one of the things that's on our next thing is what's some of the evidence that we're going to use to support that, and not just the assessment results that we're talking about, but then how are those interpreted, and how do different people interpret that?
Exactly.
Because talking about the rubric that the district gives us compared to what a parent sees when they see my child is below.
Yes.
Because I'm not reading at such and such in November.
Yes. It's not the end of the year yet.
Right.
There's still a lot of room to grow.
And how many times you'll be saying that over and over if that's the way that this all comes down.
Exactly. And how to put that in a comment. Because I'm supposed to write in the comments box. This is in your without scaring them.
Space.
Yes.
Right. And the other thing is for students who really are where they need to be in every other way but aren't fitting this rubric, how do you explain what else they do?
Yeah.
And having those difficult conversations when, no, really you are on track, even though, and everything else I told you and all the other data supports that, but for this piece, this rubric.
Yep, how to continue to challenge those kids.
Okay, so what were some things, we did kind of discuss that you're looking forward to implementing, maybe not positively looking forward to, but looking forward to nonetheless. Okay, so what are some tools you plan on using to support the goal? What are some strategies that your PLC and you've already identified as useful as you're going through this implementation of the benchmark learning?
Well, the support of my PLC group is really important, and then also having my leader that I can go to bounce off for suggestions helps with supporting my goals in the classroom, especially with the new benchmark and making sure I'm closing, student achievement. Let's see, some more tools to support.
And I know that the resource itself, part of the program
program, that has the online support system with all their tools and their smart board systems and the Blackline Masters. and the books that are on there that the kids can listen to. All of those tools have been very helpful with the implementation of the new program. However, I will say that there have been some technology issues on that end as well, and those can be sometimes a hassle to have with. But just with the support of my PLC, the support of the building, I appreciate the district trying to have professional development days where we spend some time addressing the needs. Back in September, that first Monday of September where we had our professional development day, it was completely devoted to the new reading program. Those are extremely helpful. They're sending the same message and everybody's on the same playing field, and those are important, and we need to continue to have some more of those throughout the school year so that we all can be on the same page.
And it sounds like your PLC collaborates in much the same way on a smaller scale. Can you tell me a little bit more about the work that you do in the PLC?
Yeah, in our PLC, we focus on the reading strategies at the time. So, for example, this was visualizing and analyzing character. During those PLCs, we talk about what's working well, what isn't working well. We also happen to have the reading resource teacher in our PLC, which is extremely helpful. She gives us ideas. She also she kind of monitors those kids for us that are maybe not making those growths, and we get to use her to help support those kiddos that need that extra support. The PLCs happen every other week, so every other Wednesday for about 45 minutes, and it's just really a good idea. It's just a really good time for us to just focus on the needs of the new program and making sure that we all, are feeling successful.
And support each other.
Supporting each other, exactly. What's, like I said before, what's not working, what is working, and just using that time effectively to get through the program.
All right, let's talk about a timeline for activities. How can we kind of lay out some more of this plan? Like, what's the next steps that we're going to be doing?
Well, to be honest, with a new program, it is really kind of week by week because that's how the program is set up. 2 weeks in small group and then a third week of Reader's Theater. With the help of the district, having the professional development days kind of helps keep us in line. Our curriculum map helps us figure out what units need to be accomplished in order to get the whole program in before the end of the year. Let's see. What else?
So when we're looking at next year, what are some things that we'll look to monitor? You said there's the district still providing some additional professional development days coming up. When are some of those coming? You have another one in the spring, or are they every trimester?
Yeah, we have one, I believe, in January. Yep, that third week of January, because with conferences in November and then winter break in December, we kind of start back things up with January. So that would be a time where we would have some more of that ongoing professional development.
Okay. And do you know they're going to do it at the end of the year, see how things went, or is January your last one, or just?
Well, no, because there's a professional development day in February and April.
Oh, okay.
So there could be 2 more that address the new benchmark program.
So it's a lot of ongoing support. That's really good.
Yeah.
And then the collaboration with your PLC, you said that you're meeting every other Wednesday for 45 minutes.
Yep.
And then I also know that you have some collaborative planning time. And those are when? When is your timeline for those?
Well, we meet every Monday, and on Mondays we plan math. But then on Thursday mornings, we plan strictly for reading. And so, and then depending on the need, there might be a third one. So we try to meet 3 times a week, roughly 30 minutes apiece. And of course, there's always those conversations in the lounge, and there's the conversations in the hallway where there's just again, I hate to be repetitive, but that ongoing, constant checking in with each other as far as our team is concerned.
Okay, and how often do you look at data, or what kind of data do you look at or anticipate for some of that formative and or summative? Let's look more at the summative as they finish. You said every trimester we're looking at data for the data days. And talk to me a little bit more about that, about the data and how and when you use it.
Well, let's see. This data day the format of it is a lot different than what we did last year with Smarkles. So to be quite honest, I'm a little sketchy too on what that's going to look like.
Until you get there for the first time.
Until we get there. And you saw one of those today, so I'm hoping everybody was on the same page. I know that I'm being asked to bring in my reading, math, and writing assessments, and I think the plan is to use that time to look at that. I'm not sure how often we're going to be meeting, but if it is trimester, that would be great. Is that your understanding of
Yes.
how often they'll be meeting every trimester?
That's my understanding.
Okay, and they're a half day, so we'll get plenty of time to look at the assessments in each area and then decide from there where do we see our need and what will the focus be for that time.
And also be able to pull out specific kids.
Yep.
And have something.
And some of those kids have already kind of been identified, so if anything else, this will be just more time to decide what to do with that information and how to help those kiddos.
And take it to the next step.
Exactly.
Let's see, in the peer observation, peer reviews that y'all are doing, you're starting
we
that?
just did one today.
Oh, fun.
Yes.
So your timeline for that is already beginning.
Yes.
How often are those, or how is your kind of plan going for that one?
By the seat of our pants.
Like, let's see how this works.
Well, I mean, we're so lucky in the fact that we do, in our math, the way our math is set up, that we can have our special ed teacher come in and observe all three of us, and then we can use the notes that she has taken and to talk about how we see each other as teachers. I think there still needs to be a little bit more talk about what that's going to look like and how often that's going to look like. I'm not even sure myself, to be honest. I see it being, something that could happen every trimester as well. That would be beneficial.
Okay. And so those have already started, and then does every teacher get a chance to observe and be observed? Is that how that's set up for now?
Yep, that is how it is set up for now.
Right. What are some additional supports or resources that you might need, or additional professional development opportunities that we haven't already talked about that might be useful?
Let's see.
Well, you almost did kind of answer it by saying it'd be nice to have more of a framework, especially on these peer reviews, or to know what the day-to-days are going to look like or how often.
Yeah.
So it would help. It sounds like it would help for you to have more of not a schedule exactly, but just more of an outline of how these are going to work. Have something a little more
concrete
and ready. And same with what we talked about initially about marking on the PPRs about students progressing or things like that. We're having one decision and not a couple decisions.
Well, and I don't think that's anybody's fault. I just think that's what happens with the new program, that you've got to iron out the kinks, and right now that's just something that there's a lot of opinions about how it should look, and I think as the year continues on, those items will get ironed out, and that's just part of the growing process. And I think that a lot of people we've been told just to kind of be flexible and just until things are a little bit more, like I said, it's just a growing year.
So you go through it once, and then
exactly, and then that's how with anything is.
In fact, that's the next thing. What is what that feedback piece is going to look like by the time you get to the end of the year? Has your PLC or has there been any discussion about, after you've been through the whole year of it, how to debrief and how to give each other feedback or decompress and replan for next year?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's why, with these kind of plans like this, that gives you a goal to look forward to next year. I see these professional development plans, that's what their purpose is, and you can use that information to guide you for next year. And I hate to tell you this, but I'm running very late.
Okay. All right. And so the last thing, we'll just, for about a minute, what things can we talked about self-reflection before and having the peer reflection, and some suggestions for artifacts would be certificates of attendance at workshops like that on campus or a district, the meeting minutes, which you'll right here in the big binder already do, the feedback notes from the instructional rounds like you have just right here, reflective writing and data from classroom grades, disaggregated test scores, all of that kind of things that we just were talking about. Okay, well, thank you for your time today, and I appreciate